Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 805, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via Livestream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening. Welcome back to Leadership Live at 805 Talking Small Business. Excited to be back with you once again on Tuesday evening. Really just having an opportunity to have a conversation about key things that you need to know as a business owner. At the end of the day, leadership is really what's going to make you successful. So helping to become a better leader and learning from other leaders is key. So that's why we're doing this show. We've been on for about 2.5 years, every single Tuesday. So excited about that streak and record, and always appreciate you guys joining in, participating. Feel free to comment, ask questions. We welcome your input and comments, and definitely your questions. We'll make sure that we answer them, and so that you can get the most out of this experience. So tonight we're going to talk about one of the things that's your most important job as a business owner, and it's going to be even more important as we go to 2023, given the business environment out there, and that's sales. If you don't sell enough, then you're not really going to stay in business that long. So, figuring out how to sell, but not just sell enough, it's important to continually grow and have a process and a system so that you can grow and create the sustainable business that can run without you and a valuable business. So that's what we're going to talk about today, really figuring out how do you get the sales thing right as a small business owner, and how do you go from just you selling to developing a process and a system that works with or without you. So my guest tonight is Gene Bohensky. Definitely excited to have him back. He's a wealth of knowledge, and really enjoy chatting with him about key things that are relevant, because he works with so many business owners and in the sales and marketing space. So we want to keep you current with what's available. So let me invite Gene on. Hey, Gene, how are you doing this evening?
Great. How are you?
Excellent. So welcome. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. We're getting up on the holidays, so it's a nice time of year. So what do you generally do around this time of year as far as with your business?
Well, really, at the end of the year, a couple of things I think most business owners do is you take stock of how the year has gone. And of course, you're making plans for the next year to see the things that you can do differently and improve on.
Okay. Excellent. And, next year, each of the last few years has, brought in so much change and uncertainty. What are you seeing for the coming year?
I think it's going to be mixed for a lot of people. Some people are having some trouble with their businesses. Some people are not seeing anything. I think the challenges going forward for any business is to make sure that they keep their sales engine moving. You don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but you can control it by making sure you're always getting new customers and new sales. That means not letting up on any of the lead generation and outbound focused sales activities that you have to do. I think a lot of people get caught up in what the economy is going to do, but the reality is, in any business, if the economy is down, that means a lot of people are retreating, and that gives you, if you're aggressive, the opportunity to move in and take away market share. It might be easier to grow in a down market for us smaller business owners than in a hot market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good point, because we can be more flexible. We got to be proactive, of course, and we can be more creative. So there's
Absolutely.
is that business owners have. So if you can figure out what they are and figure out how to get in there quickly with a solution, you can really do some great things. So excellent. So before we get into this too much, you've been on the show before, but not everybody has seen the show before. So it'd be great if you could do a quick bio, just a little bit about your journey, especially on the sales and marketing side.
Well, I studied engineering in college at Rutgers, a degree in ceramic engineering of all types. But I went right into technical sales, selling industrial products. And I sold a bunch of industrial products and high-tech products, fiber optic products, battery monitoring systems, all kinds of very interesting high-tech products. In all those cases, we had to really define what it was that was special about them in order to communicate to the potential customer why they should buy the product. I learned early on how important that was as a salesperson, and then later as a sales manager. Later on, I managed teams. Later on, I actually was a small business owner and owned a couple of businesses where I had to do all that defining of what it is I was selling. So that's kind of been the whole story of my career in that sense. Now over 30 years I've been doing this, and I've learned a couple of things along the way about sales, but not so much the actual, the physical sales portion of actually going to the customer and making the sale, but there's a whole other aspect to it, right? It's the creation of the message. It's understanding in what context you're selling the product. It's understanding the pricing. And of course, it's creating the whole sales process, right? So that other people can use to sell that product for you. It's the whole thing that I've been involved with in my career.
Okay. All right. So you've sort of seen it from A to Z. And,
right.
One thing that's really important today is, sales and marketing principles stay the same, but sales and marketing tools and strategies change. And, if you don't keep up with them, that can put you behind. So how would you say, since the pandemic, sales strategies have shifted for yourself and or some of your clients?
I think the pandemic has forced everyone to focus. Certainly, you have less time to get your message across. It's kind of increased the pace and of sales. If you have something special or something that you want to get across to your potential clients and customers, you don't have much time to do it in. You got maybe 20, 30 seconds. You got to make sure that you know what that value of that product or service is, and that you can communicate it. And you have to also make sure that you're targeting the right people. And all that stuff has become a lot more focused over time, and certainly since the pandemic, because of course there's a lot of people at home. There's a lot of people that are looking. There's a lot of people that are paying attention, and there's a lot of people doing that work. It's a lot cheaper to send emails, a lot faster to send texts and do LinkedIn campaigns and all kinds of messaging campaigns. So that's increased the volume of traffic. So the hit rate of whatever you're doing is much lower than it was. So you have to be prepared to put in the time and effort to get results.
Okay, so definitely, there's a lot more going on faster. One of my mentors used to always say, in this environment, everything gets cheaper, faster, and better. So, as your business, you can't stay the same. You can't rest on your laurels, because that's the environment that we're in.
Right.
So yeah, so it's key. So now, like me, like you, and other business owners, we're looking to prepare to scale. And one of the key things is, one, you got to keep growing, but you also have to create a process for having a full pipeline and continuing to grow your sales. And there's different ways you can try to do that. But the first thing a lot of people think is, I need to hire a salesperson. But that may not be the right choice, for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is understanding what a salesperson really does and what would motivate them, and what you need to do before they get there to make to make them be able to be successful with your business. So, Gene, when people are looking at hiring a salesperson, what should they do in preparation for that?
Well, first of all, I guess largely we're targeting small business owners here. Most of them probably never hired a salesperson. And the biggest mistake that they make is that they hire a salesperson without really understanding or even putting together a program for them on how to sell, what to sell, and who to sell to. And most business owners start out as the primary salesperson. They have everything in their head, and they intuitively know what it is that their product or service offers to make the sale. In some cases, what they're selling is themselves. They're selling their own expertise and their own likability and their own trustworthiness, and they might not even know where that begins and ends. So a lot of times they hire salespeople thinking that they're just going to clone themselves and that they're going to understand everything about what they're doing, right away. And that doesn't really work out that way. So many times I've seen that first salesperson that the business owner hires, doesn't work out. And then they have a negative attitude towards sales. In fact, some of them never hire another salesperson again. They're like, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. A salesperson can't sell what I do. And it goes to your point that if you're going to hire a salesperson, there's all kinds of preparatory work that needs to be done. Because a salesperson has expectations, right? If they're going to join your team and you've presented them with a base salary and some sort of bonus plan, that salesperson is expecting to make that bonus. And you, as the owner who is hiring that salesperson, should be expecting that salesperson to sell that amount, and should also be obtainable and be able to be achieved. So one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is that they have unobtainable sales goals that aren't ever going to be possible, and the salesperson doesn't work out because it's not possible to meet those goals with the information and preparatory tools that were given to them. And what do I mean by that? Well, you should know in advance what your products are that the salesperson is going to be selling, what the price levels those products are going to be sold at, and of course the corresponding profit that is going to be made at those levels. Should also understand who you're going to be selling that to. So you need to have all that in place so that the salesperson knows what they're going to be doing. So let's say you're selling metal roofing materials and you're selling that to installers of roofs, right? You should know what products you're selling, what prices you're going to be selling it at, and then there's a list of targets that they can go after. And then there should be some reasonable expectation that if that person puts in the effort, they're going to be able to make those sales targets. But a lot of times that information isn't available, or they hire a salesperson that has different ideas. I'll give you an example. How about a managed service provider that sells IT services? They hire a salesperson that really concentrated in the past on voice over IP services. That's what that person was comfortable in selling. So the person gets hired and starts selling voice over IP services and doesn't even do a good job. Doesn't even bother trying to sell the main products that that company was selling. Obviously, that's not going to work out too well. So there's a lot of things that when you're hiring a salesperson, you have to put together. And we're not even talking about the next portion, which is, having your own sales organization, how you organize your information and do lead generation. We haven't even started on that topic.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's a lot to it. And, I always say that your most important job is sales and marketing as a business owner. So being how important it is, you need to be trying to be an expert at it and learn everything you can about it. Because, if you don't understand what you're asking people to do and what you're expecting from them and making sure that it's reasonable and it makes sense, it's really hard to end up with success.
Right. Yeah. It's easy. I would say there's a high rate of failure of that first salesperson that business owners hire.
Yeah. And I think this falls into the category of, there's so many things you need to know as a business owner that you can't know them all. And unless you have a sales or marketing background, it's really hard to appreciate what they really are.
Right.
So, and one of the first things is, sales and marketing are two different things. They're not the same. So, Gene, you want to just kind of tackle that? Talk a little bit about what's the difference between sales, what is marketing, and what are the key differences?
Well, as you all know, the sales and marketing are related. Sales are actually what somebody does when they go into, when they meet somebody and they sell the product. That means they actually close a sale. Sales really covers three parts of sales. The first part is lead generation. Lead generation is when you get somebody interested in your product or service, right? Then there's the closing portion. That's where somebody actually makes an offer and convinces the person to actually sell and to buy the product, and you sell the product to them. And then the third portion is account management. That's where you are managing the account, following up, getting repeat sales. That's basically the sales process, from taking people up here that really don't know anything about you to making them interested, to bring them, and we call that a funnel. As you go through the funnel, you make them interested, and you get them closer to closing the sale, and then they become repeat customers, and you manage the account. Now, marketing is the entire other side of where you are actually creating the message of what the product does, right? And you're sending that messaging out to people to teach them what the product, what it's for, how you're going to bring the message of the product, get people to become aware of your product's benefits. That's targeting the right people and giving them the message. That's explaining to them the benefits of your product or service, and carrying that message on various means, through social media, through advertising, other means of creating awareness. That's really marketing, is creating awareness, and make sure you're targeting that awareness to the right people. For example, just in a very simple way, you don't want to sell men's clothing to children, right? So you have to target the right people who are actually going to use the product or service that you have.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. And, you know, I always think of it as, you know, marketing can help make your sales easier. So the better you market, the easier it is to sell. And if you get good enough at marketing, then you don't have to sell anymore.
You create the awareness by itself, right? I mean, creating that marketing strategy is really important. You know, what I do with my clients is we have to first start with that message. You know, if you take a look at how you're gonna deal with structure a lead generation campaign, you have to take a look at the product or service that company is offering, and you really have to refine that message to make sure that message is correct for the targeted audience. In many cases, you have to start there. You have to refine that message, right? So in many cases, most of the time, the error is that people have too broad of a message, right? They have a product or service, and it really only appeals to a very small amount of people, and you're trying to sell it to everybody. And that doesn't really work too well. It's easier when you target on that audience, you target right on that specific market and figure out what it is about that target market that really makes them or could make them interested in your product or service. That's really the marketing side of the equation. Once we really understand the people and we understand the message, right? We know who we're targeting. You know, that's the marketing side. And the other side is then creating that mechanical engine of finding the people that fall into that category, and then reaching out to them with messaging, either with emails, with phone calls, with LinkedIn, with any kind of way that you can get that message over to that person, right? That's the mechanical side of lead generation. And then you find the people who are interested, and you grab onto them and you try to get them to close and make a sale.
Okay. And, you know, because sales and marketing are two different things, I would say the majority of salespeople you might hire probably don't really know that much about marketing or aren't that good at marketing. And you really have to set up your marketing before they can really be successful. Does that sound about right based on what you've been seeing?
Well, that's critical. It's critical because most salespeople are not creative. And this is very important. You have to have your system targets and messaging predefined for them, right? So this is where a lot of people fall. A lot of people think that you're going to hire a salesperson and they're going to figure out for themselves how to sell it, who to sell it to, and what to say, right? That's really the wrong approach. And you have to, if you're going to hire a salesperson, the best salespeople are very mechanical, right? They know what their message is, and they know who to target, and they repeat it until they reach their sales quota, right? You have a good system for them, and they're going to run with it. If you don't have a system for them, if you haven't done your marketing, if you don't know who to target, if you don't know yourself, right, who the people are who are going to buy your product or service, you can't expect your salesperson to figure that out. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest error that business owners make, right? Yeah. You have to know all of that in advance. Like I said, a business owner has their own sales and marketing in their head. You know, they know who to talk, who to contact, and they know what to say to them, right? That's really the creative part of the process. That when you hire someone, you don't want them to do that, because the other thing is that they can start making things up and then selling things that aren't appropriate, and you can't really have that. I mean, there's some salesperson. I was at one sales seminar that I went to that said that there are alpha and beta salespeople, and the real alphas could figure out what to say and sell to anybody. And those are a rarity, and they usually cost a lot of money to hire, and they're not going to tolerate not meeting their sales goals, right? So the top sales person, if they're not meeting their sales goals, they're going to quit on you. And they're going to tell you, I can't meet my quota here. I'm not making enough money. I'm out of here. Right. And if they're good salespeople, that's what they're going to do. They know they can sell, and they're looking for a product to sell in order to make their goals. Right.
Okay. Yeah, and a good point. The salespeople who can sell and market, you usually as a small business owner can't afford them, or they probably have their own business anyway.
Well, there's another thing to this, and I've seen this many times. A lot of business owners don't want to pay what a good salesperson wants to make, and if you really want a salesperson to knock your business out of the park, pay them, right? Give them a compensation plan that allows them to run. There was an example early in my career I heard of a textile company doing about $1 million a year in New York City. Maybe it was $2 million. I don't remember the amount, but the top sales guy was bringing in $445. Right? He was earning more than the owners ever earned, and he was the one who was doing the work. And they sold the company, and the new owner comes in and says, "Right, Mr. Sales Guy, nobody earns more than me. I'm capping your salary at $250." Right? What did he do? He left the next day, and 1 year later, the company was out of business, right? And that's the power of what a top salesperson can do. And if you have one of those people on your team, right, don't ever shortchange those people, because they have a thing going on that is not easily replicated, and those people are very rare out there, but they exist.
No, great point. I used to work at New York Life, and it was interesting. It's a Fortune 500 company. Top salespeople made a lot more than the CEO, and salespeople are competitive, and if they're and they're making you money, they're bringing in the sales. So
if your system is set up right, I mean, that's the whole thing. You've got to make sure that in your cost structure that you have that percentage that is already predefined for that salesperson. Then it doesn't matter if they're making $1 million. You're going to make the money along with them.
Yep.
The thing that happens with a lot of small business owners is that you try to do things on the cheap, and you hire a B player or a C player, and you hope that they're going to turn things around for you, and that just doesn't work. It's like a Hail Mary pass. That's not going to work. If that's why you really have to understand that sales. I mean, that's where our company comes in. We help people get ready and get leads before they actually have, they actually end up hiring that salesperson.
Okay.
Because you want to get all that stuff ready in advance, and if you don't know how to do that, then you can figure it out by. Like you mentioned before, people should go to sales training. They should hire sales consultants. They should hire lead generation companies. All those things cost less than hiring a salesperson. You can do all those things first and get yourself ready, get your company ready, get yourself ready for when you hire that first salesperson.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And we're going to go into it because I think you've got a pretty impressive solution that you figured out that could really help small business owners. But before we do that, couple comments. Roberta, thanks for joining in, and definitely appreciate your comments. It's important to communicate, especially with your salespeople and with everybody in your organization. I mean, your job as a business owner, you need to be able to communicate with people and know what's going on. So getting reporting, love reports, I work with people on their KPIs. You need to have reporting and understanding of what's going on. So,
but that means you also have to have the sales infrastructure to be able to have those reports, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a CRM, if you don't have a way for the salesperson to actually have a system to use for his regular work, his or her regular work. And then out of that regular work, be able to drive reports, right?
Right. And yeah, and it doesn't help to have reports if you don't understand what information's on them. So you have to educate yourself as well, because the reports for you to take valuable information off and to be able to make better decisions. So definitely great point. And Lorraine, also question about marketing and touches. You want to hit on that real quick, Gene?
Yeah, when it says right here, when talking about marketing, is the old standard you have to attempt to reach someone 7 times before you can successfully make the sale still true? I would say yes. And sometimes even more than 7. And then one of the things that we do is make sure that we are hitting people in multiple ways, right? That you're getting them on LinkedIn and you're getting them on Facebook if you can do that. And you can get them with email and multiple phone calls. And I think that's one of the things that is most discouraging to business owners. Here's what normally happens. Most business owners get a lot of their initial business through referrals. Some of them are able to grow to a significant size through referrals. People who have done that have never really learned sales. So they have to actually start from scratch and learn how to sell. And a lot of them are very discouraged when they realize they can't just call 1 or 2 people up and get sales, right? It's a long process. And, when you're selling from nothing and you're trying to do outbound sales, that can be very disheartening for people who haven't done it before. That's a lot of work, right? Right, Andrew? As you know, it's not easy to get leads for any business.
Yes.
Starting from scratch.
Definitely, it's a challenge, and you generally, a lot of times, you're going to end up spending more time trying to get business than actually working with clients.
Yes.
As a small business owner, it's so important to manage your time, and also find ways that you can not have to spend as much time on marketing, because if you make $250 an hour, but you only get 1 hour of work for every 10 hours of marketing, so that you're really making $25 an hour. So it's important to look at those ratios and say, okay, what other ways can we do this? I think you're doing some things. I work with some organizations that may not pay my full rate, but the time factor makes up for it. So there's a balance that you have to have. So that's important. So what I want to do is, I want to take a break for a minute, but then we're going to come back and talk about some of the things that you have perfected that have really helped small business owners be able to, prepare for a salesperson,
right,
boost their sales, and grow, because that's the name of the game. But before we do that, I know it's the holidays, so if you're looking for some last minute gifts, the gift of knowledge is always helpful, and I've got some tremendous knowledge here through my books, the Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, the workbook, the playbook, and those are available. So definitely, I'll put a link in the chat, and if you're interested or you have someone that may benefit, definitely appreciate anyone who picks one up. But just so to give an idea of sort of what they are. One of my most recent book is the Masterpreneur Playbook. So here's just like a minute video, and then we'll come back with Gene and do some more talking small business. Yeah, this is my most recent. It's not even available yet.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
The Masterpreneur Playbook.
Okay.
And really, we talked about is there's 5 steps to growing your business.
Yeah.
And really laying out what those steps are, but not only what the steps are, how do you transition through them? And each stage, you have certain things, there's a certain challenge that you have to overcome.
Right.
There's a certain goal you have to achieve.
Right.
There's a certain role you have as a business owner.
Right.
There's a certain structure that you need to have within your business to support that role and move into the next role. So each step, I lay out what those things are.
Wonderful.
Because each one of those
Yep.
has a key skill that you have to have as the business owner. You have to evolve and continually learn, or you're going to get stuck. You can only go as far as you're prepared to take. Okay, welcome back to Leadership Live. I'm here with Gene Bohensky, and we're talking about really accelerating your sales without necessarily needing a salesperson. So, Gene, you talked about preparing for having a salesperson. So, what kind of things do you do to help people prepare? To get started down the road of really setting their business up so they could potentially bring in a salesperson successfully?
Well, so our programs usually have a combination of 3 to 4 elements that really prepare the business owner for a salesperson. The first thing that we do is develop kind of our sales process for them using a CRM. A CRM is a customer relationship management program, something like HubSpot or Pipedrive. You've heard of Salesforce. I try to pick a kind of a simpler one. That's kind of the first element. That is where a salesperson or where the organization collects and organizes all their sales information. And what I mean by sales information is that's where you're going to track interested customers or real leads and track them through becoming customers. So you have records of their correspondence, records of quotes, records of all the times you've tried to call them or tried to email them. All that should be kept in a customer relationship management program. So we set that up for the client and make sure the client has access to that and understands how to use it, and that it becomes part of their daily routine. It also allows you to track your hit rate. If you're doing quotes or you have orders, that CRM tool should be tracking that so you can have some record of success of how your program is going. So that's that portion. The next portion is getting that client leads or target customers. So we have various ways of researching target customers. With the subscriptions that we have the top subscriptions in the market right now. We can zero in on the companies and the titles and the locations to find exactly the people that we need to be talking to. That is, we build ourselves a subset of people. I usually like to do at least 1,000, sometimes 2,000 to 3,000 people. Those are people that we're gonna be using as targets. They're not leads yet; they're targets, right? So we also have a system where we put those people, usually a Google Sheet. That's kind of like I call a sandbox, where we put all the leads in a sandbox. Let's say you have a company, you have a product or service. We help you find those 2,000 people to call, and then we will have that spreadsheet in that sandbox. We have members of our team that are going to call those people, email those people, send them perhaps LinkedIn message, try to connect you to those people, and we have all those records in real time that the team can share. When one of those people become interested, then we bring them from the sandbox and we put them into the CRM program where we say, hey, this is an interested person. That's where we really want to get the client involved in a process to make sure that once we've generated somebody that's interested in the product or service, then the client can contact them. In some cases, we go a little bit further. We can act as an inside sales staff and actually go a little bit further and try to help quote the products and try to help sell the products or service, so that the client really only gets, that person when they're really further along that path of interest. And of course, last but not least, and the third most important part, is that we help create the message. We help create the messaging, not only the phone scripts, but the email scripts and the LinkedIn scripts to get people interested in the product or service. And so all that stuff we kind of package. So let's look after someone's been with us for a year, right? So after a year, they're going to have, looking back after a year's worth of work, you're going to probably have more leads than you can handle. You're going to have significant amount of orders that have paid for the program. You would have had a lot of conversations with potential customers. Now, sometimes those conversations don't lead to sales. Sometimes our programs show that we should be targeting other people, right? That maybe our initial focus was incorrect. We should change either our message or the people that we're targeting to. That's happened a couple times. I'll never forget this one big client we had when we started. It was a company that made this app that was going to work like Uber and focus on getting wait staff, right? And so they had, I don't remember the name of the company even now, but they got over $1 million of investment funds to develop this app and develop this. And we took it, we had conversations with the top caterers and restaurants in New York City. And lo and behold, we found that that the union had some kind of similar program and that the app was not needed. No one really wanted it. And we saved that company hundreds of thousands of dollars by not having them not invest and not go into this one direction. They were able to do that much quicker and much faster by an army of callers and messengers who were going to get real information back to them. So that's kind of how that works.
Okay. So you mentioned a few key things. And, we always talk about working on your business and not in your business. And, the way you work on your business is you have to work on processes, procedures, systems. And it's important to have a sales and marketing process and system. And these three things are really what make it up. So these are bedrock. If you're going to have a successful salesperson, you need to implement these. And most salespeople cannot do it. A CRM is, a system that's extremely valuable, but could be a lot that goes into setting up a CRM, especially doing it successfully and taking advantage of the technology to really increase productivity and output. So, as a business owner, that's something that you probably need to invest in and learn about and understand how to.
You need to find somebody that knows how to do it, because there's a high rate of failure on these things. Mm-hmm. I've worked at companies that switch CRMs every 2-3 years because the one they're using isn't working, right? So you have to make it simple so that people will use it. And there's not all of them are simple. Some of them I really don't like. I won't name those CRMs on your show, but there's some of them I really don't like. They're not really helpful. And you got to set that up. The business owner or some sort of consultant needs to set it up for the salesperson, because the salesperson has to be directed to how it's going to be used, right? The salesperson is, like I said, isn't creative. It's not their job to figure out, how to set up a CRM, right? It's the business owner's job to figure out how to set up the CRM and put the policies and procedures on the salesperson on how to use a CRM. Not only to make their job easier, but to one of the comments one of your viewers had, to have the necessary reporting, right? So if you want to follow up on what the like right there, it helps when the salesperson provides a progress report to clients or employers. It's actually the business owner's job to provide that infrastructure so that the business owner can easily provide those reports, or to have the infrastructure where the business owner can look for himself without even any reports to figure out how it's going, right? So, because, salespeople don't like reporting because for them it's non-productive time. The salespeople don't want to write reports. They want to sell, right? Simplicity is key. That's right. I know some organizations that have forced salespeople to do all the reporting and then complain that they're not doing any reporting. And I'm like, they don't really want to do that. They want to go out and make money. And anything that you do to impede them from making money, they're not going to want to do. That's why their expense reports are always late.
Right. But and also you want them to be out there making money. So
that's right. That's also right.
Free them up. So so definitely, the CRM is key, and it's your responsibility as a business owner, not theirs. You have to give them what they need. So now let's talk about leads, because you hear about leads. Everybody and their brother is trying to sell you leads. What are they? What are things to look out for? And just talk a little bit about that, because it can be
this is really key. But what is a lead, right? A lead. Some people say, I'm going to give you sales leads, and they're going to email you a list of 200 people. Those are targets. Those are not leads. A lead is someone that has confessed to you or talked to you that they have a need for a product that you sell. That's a lead. A lead is someone who has interest or a need in what you offer, right? So a lead generation company or someone doing any type of lead generation pre-qualifies from a list of targets, right? People who have an interest or possible interest in your product or service. They deliver those people after canvassing hundreds and thousands of people. Anybody that raises their hand is called a lead. Now, a qualified lead is someone who is even further down, that that they have a real interest in buying or selling the product. A lot of people find out that the leads that they've been given are not necessarily qualified. Your question of center of influence, whether a center of influence is still the best lead, a center of influence is always an important lead if you know that if that person actually has a need for your product or service, and getting that person into your process is very important. But it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily know that when you're generating leads. You not necessarily know whether they're a center of influence or not. All right, that's a little bit further down the line when you've really spent some time trying to figure out who they are. Right, I'm talking at the beginning, a lead when you're doing leads and canvassing cold names, you really don't know anything about those people. You just know that they're interested. Qualifying them further, you get to know whether they are really a decision maker, or whether they can influence the purchasing decision. That's more for larger, more enterprise selling. But a lead is someone that number one has a real need, or has a potential need for your product, and has shown interest.
Okay, so it's not a list. Some people want to sell you a list.
That's not a list. That's just targets.
Yeah, that's just but then
Potential leads.
that's potential leads. But
Right.
you can't before you can even get leads, you have to have a target market. You have to know who you're trying, who a good lead is, and
Right.
so you've got to do that work, or you're really just shooting in the dark, and you're going to be wasting a lot of money and not getting a lot of benefit. So also in response to Lorraine's question, if you have a center of influence that's sending you leads, that's almost the best of all worlds, because then they're already on the way to knowing, liking, and trusting you a lot further down the process. So you're so much closer to doing business with them. But there's a limit to how many of those you're really going to get. So you still have to generate your own in most cases. So that's key. So we talked about leads. Next, you said messaging. Okay. So we said, you need to have a CRM. So you have a system and a process. You have to have leads so you can find the right people to put in your CRM so your salespeople can sell to them. But you have to have messaging so that you can figure out who a lead is. And so talk a little bit about messaging and some of what it really is and some of the key things that you have to think about when you're doing your messaging.
Well, on the lead generation side, the issue is that you're going from zero, you're going from nothing. You have to go from nothing to something. So if you're taking a look at what you're going to say to people, you have to say something or send something in the message very quickly to get them interested. One technique is asking them a question. And it has to be specifically related to a problem that they have that you can solve, and related to a potential need that they have, to uncover whether they have a need. And you need to get in and get that information from them to build rapport quickly. Because let's say you have 1,000 people that you want to contact. What's the best way to get them to respond to you and have a conversation, right? So we've devised some of our own proprietary ways to do this. But the key thing is you got to know what your real value in what you're trying to sell, and you got to know who that person is, and you've got to have a message for them that sparks interest for them to want to learn more, right? Because the portion of the lead generation is just getting the two people together, right? I know this person has an interest, and I have the right product for them, and I can get those people together to talk to each other, right? Then somebody else is going to come in and make the sale, right? Lead generation is now sometimes it's the same person who does the lead generator. In case of a business owner, if he's doing the sale, he's finding the person who's interested and he's making the sale, right? But that's really two different things. And in big companies, those are handled by two different people. There's even two different personality types. So that message is key. That's what we help define and help write those messages for the phone callers, for the people doing LinkedIn messaging, LinkedIn connections, people doing emails, and the messaging on posts and social media. All that stuff kind of has to harmonize with each other.
And, one of the key things is you develop and get feedback from the market as you're seeking leads, as you're putting your message out, and it gives you valuable information, but you don't know the 100% right answer, and you always have to refine what you're doing. So
absolutely,
it's important to understand that yes, you do a good job with it, developing the plan, but you have to implement the plan, and sometimes you have to make adjustments as you're doing it.
You always have to be ready for a course correction. When you learn something, some of those things, you could learn something that you're doing wrong, or you can learn something that's more effective later on down the line. We've made a lot of our own internal policy changes on how we reach out to people with messaging. And we've done some programs that some have been more effective than others, and we've learned from, along the way on how to break through in order to get people interested. Right, that's the key. You know if you have the right product or service, that people are going to be interested in what you have, and you should know those people. I mean, and here's the other thing, especially if you're in the business to business world. The other person on the other side of that call or message, it's really their job to listen to what you have to say, right? If you have something really valuable for them, if you have a product or service that is going to make a difference for them, it's their job to listen to you. And you have to have that attitude. You have to understand, you have to go in with that confidence. And that assists in making the sale and making that lead turn into an order, turn into a customer. Because if you have that done right, then it's not so hard, right? And if you're trying to sell something to somebody who's not interested or doesn't have the need, you're really wasting time. But we still all spend a lot of time wasting that time, right? Honestly, a lot of work is spent wasting time, giving the wrong message to the wrong people.
Yep. And, that's why I, definitely having the right message is key. In my book, one of the things that in an article I wrote was, 3 reasons to market like a drug dealer.
Right.
The first thing is they don't sell to everybody. They don't, if you're not, a real lead for them, they're not going to waste their time with you. They're looking for specific people, and they don't, they say they don't sell drugs sell themselves. And the reason they sell themselves is because they're marketing them to the right people and they're offering them to the right people. And that's what you have to do as a business owner. If you're trying to sell too hard, either you're talking to the wrong person or your message isn't working. Definitely that.
And you have to have all that set before you hire a salesperson.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many business owners I've talked to that have hired a salesperson before they had all that in place. And the salesperson really had no idea how to sell or what to say. And the business owner relied on that salesperson to figure it out. And, that's a recipe for failure.
Yeah, definitely. So, you have to prepare yourself and your business for taking that step.
Right.
And the other thing is, a salesperson is really expensive. And if they can't be productive based on the tools and information they have, then it's not a good situation for you or for them.
No. And if they're good, they'll leave quickly.
Yep.
And if they're not good, they'll stay and they'll waste your time and money.
There you go. So, I think those are key things. We're coming up on the hour, so I know we're coming up, but this is a hugely important topic, and especially as a small business owner, your lifeblood and your success is going to be based on your ability to sell, and eventually you're going to want to grow beyond just you being the salesperson. And these are the things that you need to put in place. So if you're looking to accelerate your sales, these are the things that you have to put in place. As we said, it helps, it's important to get help, because unless you're already doing this, then you probably don't really understand how to do it.
Right.
So, getting the help, making sure that you understand what it is and what you've got and what you need to have and how it works. And that's what Gene does for people. He's got a great crew of people who work with him, and they're reasonable, and they get it done quickly. So I think that's key. So Gene, before we close out, I'll let you put some, share some final things, and if you have 3 key things to share, but also let me just share again, for those of you who just joined or who are thinking about it. This is the holidays. If you're going to get a gift for someone that's interested in being a business owner who already is, these could be really helpful resources in helping them to know the things they need to do so they can grow and avoid issues. So I encourage you to do that. And the link is in the chat. So feel free to check that out. And, Gene, you actually, we're working with a client now that you're actually doing this for.
Right.
And, within 2 months, talk a little bit about kind of where they started and where they are now within a period of less than 2 months.
Well, it was an interesting case. The client had a range of products to sell. They really didn't know how the messaging that they were going to use. They really didn't even know the price points they were going to use. So we helped them develop really what on the marketing side, to develop that part. We then created some handouts and price lists. This was a consumer product that was going to be sold to wholesale to stores to be sold on their shelves. We developed lists of target stores. We developed about 1,000 contacts. We researched the owners and purchasing managers' names. So we had the materials created. We had the targets defined, and then we put together a program to call all of those targets and simply ask them whether they'd be interested in testing the product and carrying that line in their stores. And really, just in a couple of weeks, we have 24 interested stores that are interested in carrying the product. And this is all within 60 days, from going from, not even knowing who they were going to target and what prices they were going to have, and having no collateral, to actually reaching out to people and sending samples out to 24 interested stores. So that's something we can do quickly, and that's because we have a process internally that companies can fit into. Right. So if you need to do something quickly and target someone fast, we can get that done. Okay.
So, given that, what % chance do you think they could accomplish all that you just accomplished within a year?
It's probably very, very hard to do. The first thing that people don't realize, I didn't really talk about this, is how hard it is to do the work, right? So you have to have a certain type of personality to do those outside phone calls. You have a list of 1,000 people. We usually call them 3 to 5 times. If you're not a professional caller, you're going to get discouraged very easily, because lead generation is hard, and you need to do that. I believe only professional callers can do that. And I'm not a professional caller. I hire those people, right? These are people that love to make calls. They never get tired. They don't have any issues with all the no's. And most people say, oh, I made 20 calls and I didn't get anything. Well, you know what? It might be 50 before you get something. So if you think about this, if you've made 20 calls, you think you've done a lot of work for the day. We make 30, 40 calls an hour, right? You can't do the work with 20 phone calls. Most people get exhausted from that. and they'll be discouraged if they don't get anything in 20 calls. It's like, it's not possible.
Okay.
You got to look at it over thousands, not over tens.
Right. And I would say, the chance of them having actually been able to accomplish what you accomplished in less than 2 years or 2 months within a year is nil.
Right.
And even if you gave them 5 years, they probably would never be able to accomplish that much on the sales and marketing side of their business. So, if you're going to accelerate your sales, you're going to need to get help. You're going to need to get help from the right people that know what they're doing. And you got to do the marketing and set up the tools right. So I wish we had another hour, because I think this topic is so very important to business owners. So we may have to come back and cover it in a little bit more detail in the coming year. But thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be.
Thank you, Andrew. It was great.
And
I hope it was helpful.
Mm-hmm. So definitely, we'll have you back. You're a regular, so we usually try and have you once a quarter, and continue this conversation, because sales and marketing is so important for you as a business owner. So thanks, Gene. Hang out for a minute, and let me just close things out. Okay. So good evening as well. Thanks for tuning in. Lorraine, definitely selling is a numbers game. You gotta, do the outreach, and not just a little bit of outreach. So appreciate your comments. You got a couple more as well. So just want to make sure that, we appreciate them. They're in the chat. So if you didn't get a chance to sort of see them, definitely helpful information. This was a great topic, very important. So glad you were able to hang out with me and Gene this evening. First, I want to wish you guys a happy holidays. We're not going to see you again until after the Christmas holiday. And, also we're coming up on 2023, and, planning for your business for the coming year is key. So, I encourage you to take this time with family and friends, but also take some time to step back from your business and sort of just give it some thought. Think about your plan for the year and how you're going to accomplish it. Gene has a great process. These are some things that you can work on as well. But, your sales and marketing is going to be key this coming year. So that's why I wanted to bring Gene on to share what he does. If you want to contact him, I've got his LinkedIn in the chat. So feel free to reach out to him on LinkedIn. If you want me to put you in contact with him as well, feel free to give me a call. But I would also say that he does all of that for less than half of what it would cost you to hire a salesperson. So, definitely you want to look at, as a business owner, the value that you're getting for what you're spending. So thanks again. Look forward to hopefully catching you next week or on the 3rd, and have a happy holidays. And at the end of the day, in business, the more that the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.